Just like the rule of thirds, the golden ratio is a second guideline to align elements to a grid. This time that grid looks something like this, which I'm sure of that you've seen before. The golden ratio is a mathematical equation, which I'm not going to bother you with, but in short, we are dividing a frame in such a way that the left part is approximately 1.6 times bigger than the counterpart. And we keep dividing that. The right part will now be split vertically by the same 1.6 ratio. The next part is split horizontal by the same ratio, and this goes on and on. And finally, we can draw a spiral through all of these rectangles, and this is that famous Fibonacci spiral named after the mathematician who came up with this equation. But what's in it for us? Well, the golden ratio can be seen anywhere. The lower part of your arm is 1.6 times bigger than your hands. The same goes for the position of your eyes, which lay at the same ratio on your head. The shape of a flower, the shell of a snail, which is very often used in this example, even the solar system, galaxies, or the smallest things like our DNA, everything in the universe seems to line up with the golden ratio. So what if we make a composition that also follows the guidelines of the golden ratio? Well, we would end up with a very balanced shot. The rule of thirds is kind of similar and definitely originated from the golden ratio, but having that extra spiral helps us to align elements with a greater empty space. For instance, we're placing our subject to the golden ratio, and we can flip it so that the spiral goes to the most important area, which are the eyes of Lucia. Using the rest of the spiral, I can look for things in the background or the foreground to follow that line. Another example is where we ask Lorenzo to sit down. He is the subject, so I'm going to flip the overlay to make sure that the spiral aligns with the other elements again. We can also apply this rule to close-ups, where we choose a focus point and align the rest of the elements in such a way that it follows the spiral. And you'll notice that it actually goes quite easy, as the golden ratio is something that comes back in our everyday life. So that is, in a nutshell, the golden ratio. Now, you might be stuck with the question, which rule should I follow now? The rule of thirds or the golden ratio? Well, both of them are good, so there's not really an answer to that. At first, it's important to practice both. The more experience that you gain, the more you feel which rule that you have to follow or even mix together. As of now, we're also going to mix different techniques together to create even more interesting and dynamic shots. Now, the rule of thirds is mostly used in television work, news, event videos, daily productions that don't require a specific cinematography, because aligning to the rule of thirds is easy. With a little bit of practice, you can memorize the guidelines, and without thinking, you're aligning your shots correctly. The golden ratio is a little bit more complex and is also seen as a more cinematic way of compositing, as it opens up a whole lot more to tell a visual story. So those are the two biggest differences. Alright, I'm going to invite you again to go out and practice the golden ratio. Now, if your camera can't overlay that, there are various apps for your smartphone which can. As long as you're practicing, your phone is a great tool for that. Again, take photos or short video clips of stuff that is laying around, or ask a friend and practice the golden ratio a little bit before coming back. Because in the next lesson, we're going to take a look at the depth of field and how we can incorporate that into these new composition rules that we've just learned about. Thanks for watching.